Hey, what's going on, everybody? So today I want to talk to you guys about my favorite vegetable, which is asparagus, and how I'm planning on planting it and growing it and seeing if I can have any success. So let's get into it. Okay, so this is a raised bed that I built last weekend, and if you want to see a video on how to make a raised bed, I'll put a link up here in the top for you guys to click on. I'm not going to get into that today, but I do want to talk about the asparagus that I have here. So the top row is purple passion, and some of them looked really good. Some of them looked like they were dead. I will try planting them all to give them some hope. Then that second row right there is Mary Washington, which is a very popular brand. You see them all over the place. Got those at Home Depot. And then down at the bottom here is a Jersey Knight. So interesting thing about that one, or Jersey Giant, I'm sorry. Interesting thing about that one is I bought 3 packs, and one of the packs had nothing in it. Like, it was just completely dead. So when you buy these packs, they look like this. So they come in this little pouch, and they either have sawdust, or they have peat moss. Some of these had peat moss in it. They let you know what kind of asparagus they are, and they give you some planting instructions. So we do things a little different here in Arizona. So our asparagus is not going to like being in full sun, but I did find with my past growing experiences they do need some. So I've decided to put these next to my eastern wall, but there's quite a bit of foliage all around it, and then after about 11 o'clock they're gonna get some shade. So that's what we call morning sun, afternoon shade. So I kind of fell in love with asparagus when I went to Germany, and in Germany all of their asparagus is really white. There isn't any color to it. So look at this one, it's kind of cool. This is one of the purple ones. It's already starting to shoot some spears, which is awesome. So I'm hopeful that these are going to be healthy. But if you notice, they're white. These have been in a bag for the last probably few weeks. They had a little moisture in them, and so they started to grow because it's warming up. The reason they're white is what actually changes them from white to green is the sunlight actually changes the color. It starts absorbing it, and then it creates that green color to absorb the sunlight so that they can do photosynthesis and grow, which is pretty dang cool. But these guys in Germany, what they do is they basically just keep them buried, and that's why they always come out white. So you could technically grow white asparagus here if you really wanted to. So what I did is I laid these out, and I know that I have way more in here than my bed can technically fit, but I wanted to put enough in here so that if there's dead ones, I can just remove them, and if they expand, I can always transplant them and put them in this is kind of a nursery stage for my asparagus. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys. I'm going to get a section, and I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to bury some and show you guys, and then I'll talk to you about soil. See you in a sec. Okay, so I opened up a hole here, and I made it just the right size where the crown part will be just a few inches above the ground. The rest of it will be down here so it can spread out. And I'm going to bury it. I'm going to pack it in. And so you guys see the crown itself is under the ground. These little spears are coming up. I'm going to go ahead and do that with the rest of them real quick. And I will be right back and show you guys and talk to you guys about the soil and why you need to pay attention to it, why it's a little different than some of your other raised beds. Alright, so I planted them all kind of in the way you saw them, and you can see I got a few of the little spears sticking up through the soil already. So one important thing with asparagus is the soil. So if you look up a soil on asparagus, it doesn't require like the same type of soil that you normally find in a raised bed. It actually says it prefers more neutral, less acidic soil. So what I normally do is I fill it with peat moss, which I still do have on the very bottom layer of this raised bed, but it's tall. The roots will probably never reach it. But I don't put anything in that will lower the pH. So I'm using my Fox Farms Ocean Forest, which you guys have probably seen me use a lot, and that has a pH of 7. So that's right there at neutral. And then I'm using potting soil, which has a little bit of it ranges about 6 to 6.5. So I'm probably right around the 6.5 range altogether for this soil. It's important that asparagus is in kind of virgin soil. You don't want any contaminants to get into this because it's a long commitment for asparagus. It's not something you plant and the next year you've got asparagus. It could take 2 to 3 years before you're enjoying it, and it could even take up to 10 years before you're having enough to feed your family. So it's important that you're in it for the long game and you understand that. When picking out your spears, it's really hard to get good spears like at the grocery store. This is kind of the material that it was in. So I see some wood shavings and peat moss. Some of the bags, I opened them up, they had a nice little tint of moisture to them. Those are the ones that you see the green spears coming out. I had others that were dry as can be, and I'm not really hopeful that those are going to make it. So although you guys saw me plant a lot in here, I bet only a quarter of them are actually alive and are going to make it. So buy accordingly and kind of plan that way, because if you buy them thinking they're all going to be alive and great, you're probably going to be very disappointed. So I have grown these in the ground and actually grew fairly well. And I think one of the reasons is our pH in our soil can be 7.5 to 8, which is a lot better than some of the pH that we're going to see. So the soil does play a really key role in how they're going to develop. So the last time I planted them, I think I put them in more of a blueberry and maybe slightly more alkaline than blueberry, like raspberry and blackberry bed. And they did have some growth, but they never really took off, and I couldn't really figure out why. But the ones I had just thrown in the ground were thriving. Only problem with the ones I threw in the ground, they were a really hot spot in the house, so they seemed to really struggle. But I did keep them alive for about 4 years before they finally croaked. They didn't croak because of me. They croaked because we moved and the new homeowner ripped them out, which is sad. But they are a long-term crop, so I recommend if you're getting in it to get it in for the long run. So I'm not going to post this right away. I'm going to wait a few weeks. Hopefully we'll see some spears, and then I'll post it and show you guys the progress. It's a lot better than just a video of a guy putting a couple things in the ground and not really seeing the results. You guys want to actually see if it works. So we'll be back in a couple weeks. Really important that they have good drainage and that you water them regularly. They don't like to dry up either. So that's why raised bed and kind of a shaded area is hopefully going to work for me, but we'll see. All right, see you guys in a couple weeks. All right, everybody, it's been about 2 weeks now, and as you can see, I've got quite a few little stalks coming out. Mainly it's the Mary Washington that we're seeing, but got all different sizes, big and small. Some of them almost look good enough to try, but we're not gonna do that. I've got one purple one sticking up, so like I said, you never know how many you're actually gonna take. But some of them could still come up. I've got different ones coming up on different rows, and I might plant some basil or something small in here that won't have deep roots, and that'll be a companion plant for these guys. But that's the update, and I'll do one at the end of the summer so we can see just how well it did at the end of the summertime. So thanks for watching. We'll see you guys again next time. Subscribe, and have a fun growing season.